to play the game. Time to play the game. It's all about the game and how you play it. All about control and if you can take it. All about your debt and if you can pay it. All about the pain and who's gonna make it. I am the game and you don't want to play me. I am control. No way you can change me. I am heavy debt. No way you can pay me. I am the pain and I know you can't take me.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Holden D's Nuts, your esteemed host for the evening or the afternoon or the morning, whenever you play this. I should be live streaming this about 8 or 9 o'clock Central Time, live on YouTube. And I'm streaming, here's the thing, I'm streaming recordings. So the sound you hear right now has been pre-recorded. This is not a live broadcast. This is a live stream of the recordings that I've done. Because that's much easier for me. It's much easier for me that way. And so you're gonna hear a lot of and 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 ands and that kind of thing, because I don't know. Or you might not. Maybe I'll be able to edit it on Thursday, which is today.
Which you didn't, you lazy cunt.
This is about the most one session-y podcast that you can get from me at the moment.
One session-y, really? Is that the word you're going with?
Because I tend to record my thoughts on random subjects just throughout the week, and I didn't this week. One thing as well, I was going to do the Casablanca review last week. If you take a look at, if you listen to last week's podcast, there are some hiccups in the audio where I play like the week before's podcast or the start of the week before's podcast. I lost the Casablanca audio. Not that it was any good, but short review. Fucking Casablanca was a good fucking movie, and you should definitely go see it. It's not lovey. It's not mushy. It's not a romantic chick flick, as some people would maybe make it out to be. It's very much okay. So this guy Rick, I think his name was Rick. I have a shitty memory.
Yes, you fucking imbecile. His name was Rick.
Who's played by Humphrey Bogart, does a tremendous job. He's an asshole, and he runs a club in Casablanca, Africa. And this was World War II Germany, so a lot of French refugees were trying to get out of their homeland because it was taken over by the fucking Nazis. Nazis didn't want that to happen, but in order for the French refugees to get to Casablanca, they'd have to cut through Belgium, which Belgium is a neutral state at this point, so that's not going to fucking work. So they're going to have to go around to Casablanca. They're going to have to go around Belgium the long way to get to Casablanca, which is only one of the locations where they send ships for refugees, and they go to America to start a new life because the fucking Nazis, etc. So Rick runs this bar there, and you don't know, I don't think you ever find out why Rick is banned from America, why he was exiled or why he ran away and he could never come back to America. I don't think you ever find that out. You might, but I don't think you do. But so he runs a bar in Casablanca. And it's where a lot of French refugees come, and a lot of German soldiers come as well, because Casablanca apparently is also neutral territory, maybe? I don't know. So, there's one guy, Victor. He's very wealthy and he's very famous in Casablanca. He comes in. Well, this is not going to be a short review, is it? So he comes in and fucking, he and his wife. Oh, yeah, Victor was in a concentration camp as well. Him and his wife have a guy who stole transit papers from two German officers and killed them. He had a guy, I can't remember his name, Uganda or something like that. It was an African name, some kind of African name. But he had this guy get the transit papers for him, but he turned out to kill the two German officers. Now the Nazis are coming to search for the guy who killed the German officers to get the transit papers. So Uganda, or whatever the fuck his name is, knows Rick. He tells Rick, hey, I got these transit papers. So Rick hides him in Sam's piano. Sam is the black man playing the piano. He's the entertainer. And this is very much, it's dated, but it's timeless. There's that, Sam is pretty much just the black man playing the ragtime piano. That's where the stereotype came from. It was very much a product of its times in that regard. And a lot of other regards as well, but I won't get into that. So, Rick, he's a cold-hearted bastard. And we don't know why that he's this way at first, but he only cares about himself. So I'm assuming he got burned in the past. This montage of Rick and the girlfriend, I can't remember her name for the life of me, Eva or Riva or something like that. So we see the wife and Rick. We saw they were in a romantic relationship in Paris. Well, come to find out, Rick wanted to run away to Casablanca with her together. It turns out the wife stood him up at the train station and he left alone, and that's why he's such kind of a cold-hearted, selfish prick. So the wife ends up having, well, she'd already been married to Victor, but he was in a concentration camp. So he escapes. She meets up with him. That's why she didn't go with him to Casablanca on the train. They finally end up in Casablanca, the husband and wife, Victor and the wife. They finally end up in Casablanca. And she had no idea he'd be there. And there's this, there's this song that was their song, the wife and Rick's song. And it was their song, and it was romantic, and Rick never wanted Sam to play it again because it reminded him of her. So at the wife's request, he plays it. Rick comes out, Sam, I thought I never told you to play that song again. And then Sam just motions with his head, just over there, dude. And then there's the wife. Blonde-haired, blue-eyed, fucking whore, right? So later fucking Rick, oh my god, It's been so long. And it's this kind of awkward, kind of touching reunion, at least when you look back on it. So, eventually, the Nazis shut down the bar, and they never find the transit papers. So Rick has a decision to make. He can give the transit papers to Victor and the wife, but the wife wants Rick and her to run off together and take the transit papers to leave Vic behind. While in the end... Oh, and there's, I think, he's either French or German, but there's an officer... I believe he's German. There's a German officer that's helping Rick, or who helps Rick sometimes. And he's kind of on the border between crossing over to the rebellion from the Nazis. And he still has to report to his commander. And fucking he does that. And every time Rick asks him for favors, it's like it's pushing the boundaries of their friendship and his job, basically. And it's very much it's very well done. Louis, I think his name was. So, Louis, I need you to do this for me. Well, I really can't, but I'll help you out this once. Okay, Louis, I need your help. Louis played a big part, even though he was such a minor character in this whole thing. So, Rick gets to the airport, and the wife gets to the airport, and, we have this scene, these things aren't worth a hill of beans in this crazy world. And there's a scene at the airport, and he... So first what they do is Rick says, okay, I'll run off to America with you and leave Victor behind, but don't tell him just yet. So the wife thinks that we're leaving Victor behind, but really, Rick's gonna sign Victor and the wife's names on the transit papers. But the wife doesn't know that. She still thinks that her and Rick are going together. So they go to the airport. He signs the papers. He's like, what are you doing? I was like, you got to go off with your husband. And he tells me, your wife and I had an affair together while you were in concentration camp. That's not exactly what he says, but it's in a nutshell. That's what he says. Your wife and I were together. I was like, all right, yeah, I understand. She gets lonely. I get it. And so Victor forgives the wife. And there's this, I think, if I remember correctly, there's this one moment where Rick and the wife make love one more time, one night, and then he tells Victor, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what he said was something along the lines of, in order to pull this off so she didn't know that you and her were going together instead of me and her, I had to consummate our relationship once again. And he said, I understand. So Vic's kind of a cuck, in all honesty, if I remember correctly. I thought that was hilarious. I was like, I fucked your wife again. I was like, all right, whatever. I just thought that was hilarious. I'm sorry. So and the Nazis are on their way too. This whole time the airport scene is happening, the Nazis are still on their way. So Vic and the wife finally get on the plane. They start to take off, and then the Nazi commander's like, he asks Louis, and he's like, "Well, weren't you able to stop that plane? It's still taking off on the runway." And he said, "I'm sorry, sir, some excuse." And so now Louis finally joins the rebellion. And it's kind of a satisfying moment. And that's when Rick and him walk off into the night. And he said, "Louis, I believe this is the start of a beautiful friendship." And then the movie ends. And it was a great movie. That was it in a nutshell, pretty much. But it was a great movie. I recommend everyone see that movie at least once. That and 12 Angry Men. 12 Angry Men is a tremendous film as well. I saw that when I was in high school. I believe it was I was a junior in high school. But 12 Angry Men was another good one. So, let's talk about, I need to rewatch Raw and SmackDown. But from what I remember, SmackDown was pretty alright. I don't remember much of Raw. NXT sucked ass because it was, these were the go-home shows for SummerSlam. SummerSlam is happening this Sunday, 2 days from now as you listen to this. And I'm excited for SummerSlam, honestly. But NXT, it was just like an hour long, like 2-3 matches, and then ads for SummerSlam, basically. And the matches weren't even that good anyway. I can't even remember anything noteworthy that happened on NXT this week, which usually I watch NXT, which is not particularly too often, but I watch NXT sometimes, and they're all great shows. But I do continue to watch the Cruiserweight Classic. Cruiserweight Classic is a fantastic fucking show. It is a fantastic fucking show. Last week with Cedric Alexander and Kota Ibushi, that match was one of the... It was a candidate for match of the year, in my opinion. And that seems to be happening consistently with this show. Because they have a limited amount of time, or they had. I don't know if it's all of it's already been taped, or if they're taping it once every week, or what. I think they're all taped. But all the main events so far have been fucking amazing. This week was Brian Kendrick, and goddamn, what the fuck was his name? Let me Google that shit. The Brian Kendrick, who returned to WWE last year, I think, with Rhino. So Brian Kendrick versus... Okay, so he faced Raul Mendoza last week. God damn. Raul Mendoza. I don't think Brian Kendrick's winning the whole thing. Was it Tony Nese? Yes, it was Tony Nese. Okay. Tony Nese and the Brian Kendrick. Great match. Tony Nese didn't really get a lot of offense in, though. I mean, he got some. Well, goddamn. Let's see. It might be another match I'm thinking of. But from just CWC, fucking excellent show. Just consistently on a weekly basis. CWC is one of the best fucking shows, best wrestling shows in the world right now. So that was a good main event, as far as I know. I don't remember. Again, I have a shitty fucking memory. I have... My entire right temporal lobe has been removed. And that has to do with memory and speech and audio perception, etc. And I have like a very selective memory, but I don't know if that's due to the right temporal lobe lobectomy, or the partial parietal lobe or lobectomy, or if I just have a selective memory, because they took out part of my parietal lobe, and they took out, anyway, memory. I have a shitty memory. I can't remember a lot of the highlights. I can build it in my head. I can build the image of watching the Cruiserweight Classic on my computer, and all I remember is the feeling. I remember feeling like, wow, this is fucking amazing. This is fucking incredible. It's not as good as Kota Ibushi versus Cedric Alexander, but that was a tough match to top, honestly. And I really hope Cedric Alexander gets a contract after this. There was Noam Dar from Scotland via Israel versus someone else. Fuck, I can't remember who it was. I believe Dar... No, yes, Noam Dar won. And there was this moment in the Full Sail Arena where people were chanting Dar, but they weren't just chanting Dar. They were chanting Dar, 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 Dar. That was fucking hilarious. I was like, oh my god. That is fucking amazing. I thought it was hilarious. So there was that little moment that I remember from that match. Like, when I'm talking about it right now, I don't remember a lot of the moves that were done in the match, but I remember the feeling. And my feeling overall about the series, about the CWC, is, oh my god, this is fucking fantastic. So, if you have the WWE Network or other means of watching it, I would highly recommend CWC, Cruiserweight Classic, because that shit is fucking phenomenal. Fucking phenomenal. Fucking phenomenal. Do 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 do. Phenomenal. Do 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 do. Phenomenal. Do 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 do. Phenomenal. Do 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 do. Phenomenal. Do 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 do. Phenomenal. Do 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 do. But check that out, and I'm glad that they brought Swerved back for a second season, because that show is also fucking hilarious. Phenomenal. 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 Because that show is also fucking hilarious. And I like what they're doing with Heath Slater as well. I remember on SmackDown this week, Heath Slater, he won his match against Randy Orton via disqualification, but nonetheless. And so he gets his ass beat. Fucking Randy does the little fucking leverage DDT that he did. He did it over the barricade this time when he took Heath outside of the ring. He just beat the ever-living shit out of Heath Slater. And then he wouldn't stop beating the shit out of Heath Slater, and the ref disqualified him, and he fucking DDT'd him from the barricade. A draping DDT is, I believe, what Michael Cole called it. So he did no, not Michael Cole, the announcers, whatever. Draping DDT. And he's in the medical room, next segment, and Shane and Daniel come up and they're like, "Hey, congratulations, you won your match. Here's your contract." As thank you, Stephanie, and you're so much. Thank you, Mick. You're awesome. You're so much better than that other guy. Thank you, Stephanie. You're amazing. You know. And so, before he signed that contract, Shane O'Mac gently took it out of his hand and walked away. And I was like, God damn it, Heath. God fucking damn it. Oh, well, that's the shits. But I like this free agent gimmick that they have going with Heath Slater. I think it's funny. I think it's something for him to do. And out of all the people in the Nexus, only David Otunga and Heath Slater are standing. They're the only ones left. Michael Tarver left pretty early. Ryback's gone. Wade Barrett's gone. Justin Gabriel left a couple years ago. Well, Daniel Bryan is still there technically, but he's retired from the ring at least. In which Ryback was Skip Sheffield, of course. And then, so David Otunga is on commentary, and I believe he's one of WWE's lawyers. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then you have Heath Slater, who's like the only active member of the roster from the Nexus angle. That's fucking... I mean, he's talented as fuck. They put him in there with guys like Bret Hart, with, you know, older guys, with just... they put him in there with anybody, and he'll sell like a motherfucker for them. And that's... I think that's what makes a good job guy a good job guy. I think that's what separates the Brooklyn Brawlers, let's say, from the Joe Schmoes. You have local guys that come out for squash matches and whatnot. And then you have guys like Heath Slater and the Brooklyn Brawler, who are jobbers. They're jobbers, believe it or not. But they're so good at jobbing. They're so good at selling for the other opponent. And they're not necessarily good technical wrestlers, but they're good enough to the point where you can put them in there with anybody and practically no one will get hurt. Like, hardly any injuries happen at all with those people. And I think that's what makes a good job guy. But what the fuck do I know? I've never been in the fucking ring before. I want to someday. Oh, well. But with that being said, I think this will be the podcast. I think I said all I needed to say. And with that said, I guess I'll see you guys next week. Take care.